Welcome to the Explainer. Most of us just kind of assume that when we're interacting with an AI, we're tapping into this boundless, ever-evolving, massive brain. But actually, that assumption, it's fundamentally flawed. If we really want to understand where artificial intelligence is heading right now, we have to grasp the absolutely crucial difference between static data and dynamic knowledge. So today, we're going to unpack a major structural problem at the very heart of modern AI. And even more importantly, we're going to look at a really fascinating solution that treats knowledge not as some frozen artifact, but as a living, breathing thing.
Okay, let's dive into this. There's a crisis happening inside most AI systems right now. I know, crisis is a pretty heavy word. But honestly, it's the most accurate way to describe this invisible flaw that's affecting the very platforms millions of us rely on every single day for, research, decision-making, creating content, the whole shebang. We totally marvel at how human-like and incredibly smart these systems seem. But beneath that super shiny interface, there is a fundamental mechanical limitation. It's basically a silent crisis of reliability, a structural weakness built right into the very way these systems are currently designed to ingest information.
And what makes this whole situation even more wild is that, surprisingly, no one is talking about it. The industry is moving at literal light speed, launching new updates, massive parameters, flashier UI, but there is this weird, almost eerie silence around this core vulnerability. It's almost like acknowledging this flaw kind of breaks the illusion of the almighty machine. But hey, as focused learners, we don't settle for illusions, right? We need to look under the hood. By bringing this silent crisis to light, we're essentially uncovering a massive secret about the real limits of current tech. So let's just pull back the curtain and define exactly what's going wrong.
The mechanical root of the entire problem comes down to this one concept: point-in-time learning. Basically, every standard model out there learns from the world at one specific frozen moment in time. Think of it like taking a highly detailed photograph of a super busy city street. That photo is an incredibly accurate representation of that street, sure, but only for the exact fraction of a second the shutter actually clicked. A minute later, the cars drive away, the pedestrians walk completely out of frame, the weather changes. But the photograph, it just remains frozen. Current AI systems are literally built on these massive, frozen photographs of human knowledge. They ingest a snapshot of the world, and then, mechanically, they just stay stuck right there, in that specific frozen moment.
And this brilliantly illustrates the resulting friction. On the left side, you have the AI model. It gets trained, it gets packaged and released, and then it is entirely stuck exactly where it started. Its whole understanding of reality is anchored to its training cutoff date. But then, on the right side, you have the real world. And the real world, it does not hit pause. It keeps changing, iterating, evolving, generating new facts every single second of the day. So you end up with this rigid, immovable system trying to process and advise on a completely fluid, endlessly changing reality. Every single day that passes after an AI model is released, the gap between its frozen knowledge and actual reality just gets wider and wider.
To really wrap our heads around the impact of this, think about the actual lifespan of an AI's accuracy. Yesterday, when the model was freshly trained, its data was perfectly accurate, hitting the nail on the head. But today, the world changes. New discoveries are made, systems update, context completely shifts, which inevitably means that by tomorrow, the model is outdated. Under this point-in-time framework, truth literally expires. I mean, we've all seen this happen, right? You ask a chatbot for a recent fact, and it just confidently declares that an executive who was fired like 3 months ago is still the CEO of the company. No way. What was perfectly accurate yesterday becomes completely outdated tomorrow. If you're relying on a frozen model for cutting-edge answers, you are basically navigating today's dynamic world with yesterday's expired map. The accuracy is just constantly decaying.
So, if static learning is the big problem here, what's the solution? Well, let's move to and see how this builds. Enter a platform called Codata. They are introducing this radical paradigm shift, treating knowledge as something alive. Instead of viewing data as some historical artifact that you just collect once and lock away in a vault, they view intelligence as a biological process that absolutely has to continuously adapt. This completely flips the script. To actually fix this crisis, we have to stop treating AI like a printed encyclopedia from 2021 and start treating it as a living organism actively navigating its environment.
So how does this actually work in practice? It all relies on Codata's living knowledge framework, which is built on 3 really cool main pillars. First up, adapting validation. This means the system doesn't just blindly assume what it learned yesterday is still true today. It is constantly checking and validating its info against our shifting reality. Second, growing data sources. The inputs here aren't capped.
The model is continuously ingesting new streams of information to expand its awareness. And third, governance built on real expertise. This ensures that as the system is growing and adapting, it's actually guided and structured by genuine, real-world human expertise to maintain context. Put together, these three mechanisms act as the absolute perfect antidote to those rigid limitations of point-in-time learning we just talked about.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it brings us to the true philosophical core of the issue. Instead of locking truth at a single point in time, the system keeps refining it. Think about how profound that really is. Truth, especially in the context of human progress, isn't some static destination. It's a continuous process of refinement. When an AI system can actually embrace this continuous evolution of truth, when it can actively overwrite outdated assumptions with new discoveries, exactly like a healthy human mind does, it breaks completely free from the constraints of its original training data. It evolves from a simple, memory retrieval tool into a truly dynamic intelligence.
So the crucial point is that the writing is on the wall. The most powerful AI will be the one that never stops learning. The future of artificial intelligence does not belong to the model with the biggest static dataset. No, it belongs to the unstoppable AI. An AI that can continuously run that loop of adapting validation, growing its sources, and leveraging real human expertise is inevitably going to outpace any system that is just stuck in a frozen moment from its past. Continuous learning isn't just some neat optional feature, it is literally the fundamental requirement for the survival and utility of AI in a world that absolutely refuses to stand still.
Which brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with today. I want you to take a look at the tools you use every single day. Look at the systems you trust to help you write, code, analyze, and learn. And ask yourself, is your AI still learning? Or are you basically just talking to a ghost from a frozen point in time? Understanding this key difference between a static snapshot and a living intelligence, well, that's what's going to separate the casual users from the true innovators in the years to come. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and I will see you next time.